and welcome back to my channel. So recently I've made a few different purchases where some of the polishes, once I get them home, end up being very similar, if not dupes, for other polishes that I already have. And I had a couple people ask me if I could do somewhat of like a dupes video, so I thought that would be fun to do. These are just on polishes that I bought recently. I know I have other polishes in my collection that are dupes for each other, but these are just ones that I bought recently at the same time as each other. So the first group I have are grays. Now these first two I didn't buy recently, I've already had these, but the two that I bought recently, I'm gonna compare with these two because they're all very similar. So first one is Opi-my's My Boyfriend Skills Walls. And this is just a very iconic, white with a drop of gray. And then a couple years ago I bought Kl-Sophie. Now I'm pretty sure I've done swatches of these together, at least on my Instagram. I definitely don't think I've ever done a dupes video. I'm pretty sure I did this on my Instagram, and I can't quite remember. I've worn them both, but I can't quite remember if they're exactly the same. I feel like Sophie might be just a little bit darker than My Boyfriend Skills Walls. But then recently I picked up Press Pause when I was with Krista at Marshall's. This one I feel like is very similar. It looks like it might be like half a shade darker than the KL, but I mean, look at that, they look so similar. So it'll be interesting to see them on the nail wheel together. And then last one is definitely darker, but I did get it at the same time and they're similar, so I thought I would share. This one is Pacifica Valhalla. And this one you can tell is definitely at least a shade darker. But these three, I'm interested to see how they compare to each other because I think they're going to be very similar to each other. Okay, then the next little grouping I have are mint greens. So the first one I've had for a while, but these two I got recently at the same time, and I immediately thought of, after I, having them in person, I thought of this one. This one is Kokie's Citrus Splash. This is amazing formula, by the way. These Kokies, the creams, have such good formulas. Okay, and then when I was with Krista again, we were at Marshall's. I got Ncla Take a Dip. Now the thing is, when I'm out in the stores, or especially because I was with a friend, normally I would stop and I would look and see if I have anything similar in my swatches, but I was with a friend. I wasn't going to stop and look through my swatches and see if I have anything similar. This was only $3, so I just grabbed it. And then of course once I get it home, I realized that I have something very similar. And the other one that I bought pretty much almost at the same time, I don't even know if it had come in the mail yet, was Lacquer Peppermint Patty. She was having, I've never purchased from her before, this was my first time, and she was having a birthday sale, and then she also had a few polishes on clearance. So I got a couple that were on clearance with also the discount code. So these three, they look very similar. Yeah, without swatches, I don't really see much of a difference. I'm thinking that they're gonna be extremely similar. Maybe this one looks like it might have a touch more blue in it, but I won't know until we swatch. Okay, and the next little grouping I have is China Glaze, Ice and Bubbles, and then Zoya-celestia. Now these two are so similar, look at that. They're both that ethereal type. I mean, they're not toppers, but I'm sure you could use them as toppers. I haven't worn either of these yet. Look at that, so pretty. This one, the Zoya looks like it might have a bit of a stronger pink flash. And then the China Glaze is a little more subtle. And maybe slightly, well, I was gonna say more blue, but no, because the Zoya even has little blue speckles. And then the China Glaze has little blue speckles too. So I think it's just that this one has a stronger pink flash than this one. But I think so you can kind of see the flash is not as apparent as this one. But I think the overall effect might be the same, so we'll have to see. Okay, the next grouping are my Split Pea Pruglies. I love Pruglies. This type of color, I can't say no to. This one I've had for a while. This one is Cirque Colors Beatnik, so I'm going to compare the other two to this one. This is just a beautiful split pea. So pretty. And then these two I got right around the same time. Light Lacquer, which I got during that purchase that I made, 11. So these two looks like the Cirque Colors might have a little bit more yellow in it And this one might be a little more, I don't want to say neutral, but this one might be a little brighter, it looks like. And then the other one is Essie's My Happy Bass. Although someone told me this is pronounced My Happy Bass, although it's spelled bass like the fish, but they said it's pronounced My Happy Bass. All right, so these three, let's see. Okay, so these three together, these two definitely, just without swatching, these two definitely look like they're more similar, and this one looks like it's a little less yellow than those two. But the thing with this type of color is, number one, I can't say no to them. Number two, you know, one can have just a drop more yellow or a drop more green, and it completely changes the whole polish. So until you have them in person and you can actually swatch them yourself, you never really know exactly how similar they're all going to be to each other. All right, and then the last little grouping, initially when I got them separately and then received them, I thought, oh no, they're pretty similar. But I've since worn one of them, and I can tell you right off the bat that they're very different. First one is Ilnp Salem. So initially I just see the beautiful emerald and I think, okay. And then Beasley's lacquer, She Reaches from Beyond the Grave. Initially I just see the beautiful emerald sparkle and then I think, oh, I bought the same polish. But no, I've worn this one, and this one very clearly has a very distinct plummy purple shift to it. And then this one you can see right there has more of like a blue base. So this is like a blackened emerald with that shift, and then this one, see that blue? Plum and then blue. So these ones I can already see are not the same, but I'm gonna swatch them together anyways. All right, so I'm going to turn the camera around and do swatches of everything on my swatching wheel, and then I'll come back at the end and we'll talk about it. Okay, so the first one is Opi-my's My Boyfriend's Scales Walls. This one has a really nice formula. I've always enjoyed this polish. Okay, and then we have Kl-Sophie. Okay, with just one coat, Sophie does look like it's a bit darker. This one is Sophie. This one is My Boyfriend's Scales Walls. And Sophie does look like it's maybe like half a shade darker. All right, let's do the Essie-press pause. Okay, that one also looks like it's about half a shade darker than Sophie. And it looks like it's got the tiniest drop of maybe like purple. Compared to the Sophie, it's coming across just a tiny touch purple. I have to see what that looks like with the second coats. Oh, sorry. Okay, and then the last one is Pacifica Valhalla. And this one's definitely darker. Yeah, that one's a couple shades darker. Oops, kind of fuzzy on there. Looks like the brush shed. Okay, so this one is My Boyfriend's Scales Walls. This one is Sophie. This one is the Essie-press pause, and then this one is Valhalla. Definitely just off of the first coat, no dupes. Okay, now let's do the mint greens. We have Kokie Citrus Splash, I believe it's called. These Kokies are so nice. If you can ever find these at Sally's Beauty Supply. The creams. Had a couple of the shimmers and I wasn't the biggest fan of the shimmers, but the creams are so nice. Okay, there's that one. And then this one is the Ncla, I forget what it's called. What is this one called? Take a Dip. Okay, this one looks like it's about half a shade lighter. And it does look like it has just the tiniest bit of blue in it. But but maybe it'll even out when it has the second coat. Okay, and the last one is the Lights Lacquer Peppermint Patty. This one I think is definitely lighter. Yeah, okay, this one is definitely the lightest, and it seems to be sheerer than the other two. So these two, in comparison to the Lights Lacquer, these two look much more similar. And this one's definitely, you can tell it's different. Okay, now for the China Glaze and the Zoya. So China Glaze, I believe, is called Ice and Bubbles. I will have in the description box the name of all these polishes. Oh, look how pretty this is. It's so pretty. This would have been really nice for New Year's. Okay, now the Zoya-celestia. Okay, these look pretty much identical. Looks like the China Glaze, first of all, it looks like it's a little bit more opaque, but it looks like it has maybe just the tiniest bit of like gray tinge to it almost, compared to the Zoya, which looks more like champagne. This one looks like it might be just a little bit darker, but I mean, look at that, the overall effect is pretty much the same. I'll have to see how it looks with the second coat, if the shimmer on this one stands out more. Okay, let's do the split P ones. So we've got Cirque, and then we have Essie-my Happy Base, and then we have the Lights Lacquer 11. So Cirque is beatnik. These Cirque brushes are so bad. I can't stand them. They're very skinny, and I don't like them at all. Okay, beatnik has a really nice formula. It's a little bit watery on this first coat, but it does build up nicely in 2 coats. Okay, now my Happy Base. This one's got a pretty similar formula. Actually, this one looks a little more opaque and less streaky just on the first coat than the Cirque colors. Those look, with the first coat, they look pretty identical. I don't really see much of a difference. Okay, let's do the Lights Lacquer 11. Okay, this one definitely looks less yellow. I don't know how it's coming across on camera, but it looks less yellow to me. It's got more of like almost like a camel undertone to it, where these ones are definitely more yellow. See how those look with second coats. Okay, now we're gonna do Ilnp Salem, and then Bee's Knees Lacquer. She Reaches from Beyond the Grave, I think. Let me see. She Reaches from Beyond the Grave, yes. Okay, this one is definitely very jelly. And when I did wear it, it was very jelly as well. So it's got like a blackened jelly base. You can barely see that green, that emerald shimmer on the first coat. Okay, then we have the Bee's Knees Lacquer. Yeah, they're way different. Okay, this one is also very jelly, very sheer. This one's probably gonna need 3 coats, and it's in a blue base, like a darkened blue teal. And this one is a blackened base, blackened jelly, and this one is a darkened blue teal base. But the emerald shimmer looks like it might be very similar shimmer particles. Okay, I'm going to do second coats on everything, probably 3 on this one, and then I will come back. Okay, so I did 2 coats on everything except for the Ilnp and the Bee's Knees. I ended up doing 3 coats. Okay, so the grays. This one is My Boyfriend's Girls Waltz, which you can barely even see on the nail wheel. This one is Sophie, and this one I would say is like half a shade darker than the My Boyfriend's Girls Waltz, so no dupes. And then this one, the Essie-press paws, is darker than both, and it also has just the tiniest touch of, I want to say purple, but it's definitely not a taupe, but it's definitely got a drop of something in it. So no dupes on either of these. I'm surprised that these two are a little more different than I thought, and I thought this one, the Essie, was going to be very similar to the Sophie, but it's got a much different undertone. And then this is the Pacifica Valhalla, and that one's definitely different. So for the grays, no dupes at all. These two are similar. The KL is at least half a shade darker, but I don't know if it's enough of a difference where you couldn't be happy with this one if you can't get a hold of, although KL is out of business too, so you probably can't get a hold of Sophie either. But if you have Sophie and you never able to get a hold of My Boyfriend Scales Walls, I think you could probably be happy with Sophie, even though it is just a little bit darker. The overall effect is very similar, but no true dupes on any of those. Okay, then the mints, you have Kokie, and look, all three of these are definitely different. So Kokie is definitely the most like saturated, and then the Ncla has a little bit more blue in it, and then the Lights Lacquer is much lighter. Now these two, Lights Lacquer is definitely different. These two, although this one has a little bit more blue in it, at the end of the day, do you need them both? I don't know. This one is a lot more saturated, it is brighter, but they do look very similar. And I think if you were to use like a topper on them, I don't know that you would necessarily need them both, but they are different. They're not true dupes. Okay, now these two, definitely, they're dupes. I mean, they're slightly different, but the differences are so minute that it really, on the nail, they just translate to the same. This one is the China glaze, and then this one is the Zoya. So this one you can see has just a slight, on the nail, in the bottle, it's much pinker than the China glaze. It has a much more prominent shift, like you see that. On the nail wheel, it's not enough to really warrant needing both. The China glaze, I would say, is a tinge more, I don't want to say gray, but it's almost got like a slightly more pewter base. I'm not sure. It's just a little bit darker, whereas the Zoya is more like a champagne. But look at that. I mean, the effect is pretty much the same. I definitely don't think you need both. Okay, and then the split peas. They're very different too. I thought they were going to be much more similar. This one is beatnik by Cirque colors. This one is the darkest. This one has a much more kind of like a khaki green, army green undertone. And then this one is Essie-my happy base, however you want to pronounce it. This one has a lot more yellow. So this one is more green, this one's more yellow. And then the Lights Lacquer, this one is more like a muted camel, I guess. So this one has a lot less yellow and a lot less green than this one. This one is less green than this. So all three different. Do you need all three? That's probably for you to decide. Do I need all three? Yes. To me, all three of them are different, and I see the difference. Okay, then these two. This one is Salem by Ilnp, and this one is She Reaches From Beyond the Grave by Bee's Knees. So this one, see that strong plum shift on the side? And then this one is blue. So I would say the emerald green is much more apparent in the Ilnp. Like you see how strong you see the green, and you really only see the plummy purple at angles. But straight on, the Ilnp looks green. Straight on, the Bee's Knees looks blue. So the Bee's Knees, I would say, is more like blue with just a subtle green sparkle, and the Ilnp is more like green. That's the base. Even though it's a blackened jelly base, the green is, prominent, and then the shift is what you see. And then the Bee's Knees blue is what you see, and then the shift would just be the subtle green sparkle. So no dupes here. In my opinion, no true dupes here. I think if you weren't as crazy as I am about, you know, split pea pruglies, you could probably get away with having beatnik or the lights lacquer. I think those two are probably the most similar. So you could have one or the other, and then I would say you definitely would want to have this one if you're into these types of colors. So you could probably have two of the three if you're not crazy like me. For me, I want, you know, all three. These ones definitely dupes. You don't need all three. These ones, I would say you would want two of the three if you like these types of colors. I mean, three if you're extremely, like this is your color, then you would want all three because there is a difference. But if you're, you know, if you're like me and you have a ton of these types of colors and, you know, they're all very similar and, you know, one is slightly less dark than the other one, is slightly more blue than the other one, you probably don't need them all because at the end of the day, they have very similar, it gives off similar vibe. And then the grays, definitely these two are different. You need those. This is truly a different undertone. These two, they're not dupes, but you could be happy with one or the other, maybe. At least I could. Although I am happy to have all four, and I do see that they're all four different. All right, guys, that was my dupes comparison. Let me know if you like this type of video, if you want me to do more in the future. Leave it in comments down below. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.